all have an opportunity to assess in our minds whether or not we believe there's sufficient facts and or evidence to show that it warrants moving forward. If we determine that it does, that would be the point where we would pass the resolution of intent, and then we would move forward following those rules. And so, and at that point, we'd have a consultant involved in that type of thing. So that's kind of the process that's being laid out. And so, really, I think the one question that I'm not clear on, I've been trying to make a few notes, is making sure that the staff has enough information that they understand what it is that we want to be able to review first before we would get to any point where we talk about a resolution of intent. And so I've got down that we should get information from other communities that have organized collection. And also I made a note that we should seek out some of the other communities that maybe do not have organized collection, but attempted to do so in the recent past, and maybe can learn some things about what they encountered, why they ended up doing what they were doing, and that type of thing. Let's see. Cost of consultant. So we also want to know some costs of some things. We want to know if we get a consultant, kind of really what's that's going to cost us. And it seemed like we should also, if it doesn't get answered before this time, have a little discussion about, the fact that, as the staff alluded to, that if we use some of that SCORE money for a consultant, well, then we're at the same time saying we're going to raise the recycling fees. Kathy?
Which is why I said maybe once we get to that point and decide that we are moving forward, or in anticipation that possibly having staff could talk to the county about how that communication person from the county could help us sift that out. Because I think they could help us. They certainly helped us with recycling in a big way. So then we would know when the consultant might be necessary and when not, so it would give you a better handle on potential cost. And I'm certainly not terribly in favor of using anything but very teeny-weeny bit of the SCORE grant for this.
And so that then we could also define further what a consultant would actually do.
Yep.
Mr. Lannis also had asked, that we have a comparison then if we were to decide not to have a consultant and use the staff, what we would project the cost of that to be. And in both of those, we're kind of also throwing out the time frame question. And so although we've kind of said, we'd like to, if we're going to do this, be in a position somewhere around a year from now where we're ready to actually do it, we need to know whether that's actually feasible, whether if we say, we're not going to use a consultant, we want the staff to do this work, does that affect the time frame? And I put it down as cost of campaign. And so I think that what I really was getting to there was, we need to have an accurate projection of really the total cost we would put into this if we choose to do it. And so certainly we might have some consultant fees, we might have some staff type of fees, some other miscellaneous fees along the way, but also along the way, most likely, at least once, maybe more than that, we're going to want to communicate with the public, I would think, in a big way. And so,
once we have some knowledge.
Right. And so, that could be a citywide mailing or two. If we're serious about it, it wouldn't be something that we necessarily would just do in the monthly, because we want to say, draw their attention directly to this and not the off chance that they might actually read it if it gets out in the monthly. And so all of those cost questions are questions that we want to have answered. And so those are kind of the notes I made. What other information? I mean, I have some things in my little list of things that I think that this process would need to produce, and I'm not sure that they would be appropriate for the first part of it. But, I mean, to me, we get into these discussions about like damage to the road and environmental impact. And so I have heard on both sides of those arguments, and when we had our meeting where the people came and talked to us and whatnot, there was a lot of people that just kind of said, you know, the difference is going to be minuscule. It's not worth the money, so to speak. And so my question would really be, is there really a factual answer to those questions about road damage and environmental impact? Or are they just anecdotal, that a lot of trucks bad, one truck good type of thing? And so anyway, Mr. Nephew, did you have something else?
I was just wondering if we could, Chuck had a slide or a sheet of paper with a kind of a bullet list on it, and it looked to me like it wasn't exactly what was in our packet, so I wanted to make sure that before we were done that we looked at that, and that would be the one, and to make sure that we're covering it all, since I didn't have it actually in front of me.
I wrote them down.
Oh, you're so efficient.
I guess we're done.
I think that's not quite the slide we want
Oh.
up on the board.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty slide.
Oh, we're back from
That was a very brief adjournment.
a alien adjournment. Mr. Lannis, did you have more?
No, I think the only question, maybe just a clarification on, some of the things that I was asking for. You draw on your own experiences, and so my own experience is to have sort of a business case. And that is really like a project map, scope and sequence, costs, everything that you would normally associate to any other business decision that we do, and that is costs and efficiencies. That's what we're trying to measure, and if we can't get a handle on what it would cost to ask the question, that would cause me some concern. And so I was just saying, laying it out for us, we got a better idea of time. That's good. We have a better idea of a time frame. We just need to have a roadmap that we would foresee out in front of us, and the varying steps that we have, and then the costs associated to that in a couple of different scenarios. That would be awesome. That would be exactly what would help us be able to at least decide to vote for the resolution or not.
So the last thing, and again, it might be part of the equation that wouldn't really happen until after we would determine that we want to press forward, is really the whole question about services. And I really think that that's an extremely important part of this process. And so the question really is, I mean, how much ability do we have to dictate the level of service? And so, can we do the things where maybe for those people who really generate very little trash, that we have something along the lines of the pay-as-you-throw type of program, that we have the ability to where we have citizens who have special needs, to accommodate those needs. What can we actually have haulers pick up besides the normal bin of trash that sits by the side of the road? I noticed I'm passing through frequently out in Roseville right now, and they must pick up leaves.
We have for years.
And so, what about that?
It's expensive.
And so on and so forth. And so anyway,
Very
services, cost, and then to me, it's more the side questions. I mean, those are the key things. And then the environmental part and the road damage and that type of thing are kind of the asides. So, Kathy?
Well, first of all, a cornerstone of this whole idea from the get-go was the ability to do volume-based fees. So that would have something to do with what you're addressing with the load generators and so on. That is one of the cornerstones of the origination of the whole concept of organized collection. Secondly, the leaf issue in Roseville, that's been a hot button for a long time. You pay for that. You contract individually with the city and you pay a lot to have your leaves picked up. Because I looked into it 5-6 years ago because I was wishing we could do the same thing, but it's very expensive. So it's not part of their regular pickup of any kind, and they almost did away with it because of the expense piece, but some people were still willing to pay for it, so it's separate totally from trash and composting and recycling and all that stuff. But the whole idea of this from years ago is basically what you're talking about, is trying to get the greatest amount of service for everyone. And when, in the past, when cities like ours, we would pass an ordinance that says everybody needs to have trash pickup, it sort of reminds me of the legislature. It's a nice general thing to say, but then you open it up for everybody's whole list of wishes and whole list of unhappiness, and how come you can have that done when I don't, and all that type of thing. And so that's why people have gotten more successful at dealing with their haulers, because they've gotten pushier, and so haulers are going, well, I'll do that, simply because they don't want to lose business. But the whole concept of organized collection is that everybody deserves, especially if you're going to require pickup, that everybody deserves good service, not just some service, but good service. And so those being the basic tenets, that's kind of why we want to look at this to begin with, and we just want to see if that's what happens when you organize, thus my asking about the other cities.
Well, I certainly agree with the service, the good service part. And I think when I looked at another city's website, I can't remember which one, that they had that, I think they just generally referred to it as yard debris thing, where either you could pay for it as part of your yearly cost, or you could buy into a 2-week time slot or something where it would get picked up. Mr. Nephew?
A comment, which is that one of the reasons that I'm not particularly frightened by the prospect of organized collection is that we already have it, but for recycling. And I can't think of any time when I was a candidate or since I've been on the city council that anybody has come to me as a constituent demanding that we eliminate this organized recycling collection and go back to a system where you'd have to come to your own terms with the hauler of your choice for your recyclables to be hauled away. And so that, I think, is kind of striking. And so that, to a certain extent, makes me discount a lot of people's concerns as a lot of it being kind of inertia of what's familiar and comfortable. And I think our success with organized recycling demonstrates that it can be done. I think that organized recycling also gives us some really good details to look at in the contract that we just approved at our last meeting about how terms can be set with a hauler. There's a whole list of liquidated damages for the price the hauler pays for failing to meet service requirements that are very clearly specified in the contract, if they miss pickups, things of that sort. The other thing is that I would like to ask staff, when it comes to recycling, how are the special needs situations dealt with? The same people that they need their hauler to come up to their door to get their trash dumpster must face the same issue with their recycling bin. Do we have special arrangements for some residents who have special needs?
Mayor, Council, yes, we do. We've got close to a couple dozen folks that have requested special services, and Tennis is going to continue with that and honor those same people as well.
So I guess, again, my comment would be that we have a demonstration that this can be done. It is being done. It's just a different bin that's been focused on, and so I don't see a big scary here.
How are you guys feeling about the level of information that you have so far?
Mayor and Council, I think I've got a bunch of items. One item that Mr. Nephew talked about, the studies and documents that he's reviewed. The rest of the council, how much of that information would you like in advance? How would you like it? Do you want it at this point in time for your own educational component?
I guess my personal feeling would be the more information that is available to be looked at, the better off we are. And so, Mr. Nephew, I presume you're you're saying that Mr. Nephew would maybe give some of your sources or his sources to you so that you can distribute it?
Sure. Or I think we probably have the same documents. It's
Okay.
just that we could provide them to the council electronically would be preferred, obviously.